All right. Just wait for people to come in here. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Lunch and Learn for October 23rd. Happy Monday. My name is Ashley Wilson. I'm on the pre-sales engineering team here, and I'll be hosting today. Giving you a peek of what's to come here. So I'll just go through a couple of these slides, and I see we have some pre-submitted questions, so we'll also address those as well as anything else that comes in. Make use of our time. Good old in case you missed it slide, just some end-of-life info. So I'll keep this up for just a bit. This is relevant to anybody. End-of-life date set to, or for all versions, up to and including version 6. Most of this, it looks like it's old news, though. In our next product roadmap meeting coming up in a few weeks here, November 2nd. So coming up a few Thursdays from now. And if you want to be a part of that and would like to register, please do. We can send you the link for this as well. All right, let's get a cooking here. So I'll go through an order that we just received the questions. So I have a couple of questions on some Excel and some file import. Andy, I see you're joining us today. And we had questions on importing files from the support team, as well as being able to create some Excel files as well. So I just wanted some background context for the files from support. What kind of files are you being sent for import? Is it like project file? Is it like a .back file? Can you give me some insight? Adrian, can we unmute Anthony?
There we go.
Or, sorry, Andy. Sorry about that, Andy.
No problem.
How's it going?
Okay. Not well at all. I am having a tough time doing anything and everything with this product. I'm just having such a hard time with it. Several times over, with support, they email me a zip file and they say import it. Every single time I import it and it shows an error and absolutely nothing gets imported. So I can't look at anything that they've done whatsoever.
Okay.
Can I show you that on?
I don't know that we are doing screen sharing anymore.
Unfortunately,
yeah.
Okay. Well,
yeah. So when I'm going to try and pull up just an example so I could show you, and you tell me if it looks at least the same for you. Does that sound okay?
well, yeah. Okay.
All right. Yeah. Bear with me just a minute here while I pull up an environment that I can use and a file here. Hang tight just a second.
It's a hot sauce with
And it's a zip file, like a decisions project. Like when you open it, is it just full of decobs files, like decisions objects files?
Right.
Okay. All right, so I'm on the right track here.
Okay, so I just, oh, rats, put it in the wrong place.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Am I? Why can't I paste into the chat? It doesn't let you, I guess. Even though
I'm not sure.
even though I right click in the chat and the paste command is the only one that's enabled.
I'm reading the error that you sent. Let me see. Does not have permission, can use. So you're hitting into the pre-import. These validations are going off.
No idea what that means. All I know is I can never import anything.
I'm just confirming that's what's happening. So it should be going on. If I try and import something like this, let me see if it'll show me that screen so I can pull it up here. This all tracks so far? Something like this you see when you try and import?
Nope.
You don't even see something like this?
Nope.
Okay.
How did you get there?
I'm in just an environment and I dragged and dropped from my file system.
Wait a minute. What folder are you in?
I'm in a whole separate environment. I'm just in a basic decisions folder with a project.
How do you get that box to come up? I don't see anything that you're doing on the screen.
I've dragged and dropped. Let me try something else here.
Okay, that I've never tried. Can you do it through the import export command up on the bar there? That
sure.
Right. So I click import. Yep. Okay, I could choose a file. I choose a zip file. Okay. Okay. Yep. And I get a whole list, although it's a lot, right?
Right. It's probably different items.
I get all this, and then on the top, and it's funny to me, but I have to get used to it that you know, the most recent entries are on top. It's like the file is upside down, but that's neither here nor there. Whatever. Anyway, all that happens is I get an error and nothing gets imported.
This error says that your account doesn't have permissions on these folders that we're importing.
Well, that's funny because I created the folder, and in that folder, I can create flows and I can create forms and I can create anything I want to in that folder.
Okay. Interesting. When you brought this up to your CSM, what did they tell you about like these permissions or anything?
I haven't heard back on that.
Not yet.
Yeah.
That's where I would go next. Generally when you import.
Oh, I have. I've got a call today with Kobe Lee, and I hope to. I've got a number of tickets out there. I've been very vocal with my tickets with a lot of people, because I'm having the hardest time doing even the simplest things. I mean, a couple of things I've figured out for myself, but I'm really having a hard time. There you go. Imported 20. See.
Yeah, it's going. Yeah. And I'm really sorry you're having all these issues. I can tell it's frustrating. I would be too.
Yeah. And Andy, I just have to give you some advice, and that is you've got to do a whole lot more QA and UAT. I really shouldn't be having this hard a time doing such simple stuff.
Okay, I'll pass it along for you on your behalf.
I'm sorry, there was a gentleman there who wanted to ask me something.
I did, Andy. I'm part of Ashley's team, I wanted
Uh-huh.
to just ensure the permissions that are set on that designer folder, whether you're logged in or have the proper group permissions, if you're a designer or if you're a administrator.
Well, I'm most likely a designer, but as I said, I created the folder.
Because if you don't have administrator permissions, then you cannot import a project.
Kidding me. I need to be an admin just to be able to import something. Let's say we have a whole team of designers and I've created something and I want to send it to somebody else. And so I export it, which I can do.
Sure.
And then they want to import it. They can't import it. How do you pass files back in there?
Right? There's difference between the file and then these project folders.
I can't, you're saying that unless I'm an administrator, I cannot import anything.
Not that I'm aware
Right?
of. Correct.
Well, okay. So I'm on a team of designers. I create something. I want to pass it to somebody else. I create an export file. I send it over to them. How do they import it if they're just a designer?
Right.
Those permissions may not be set by default. You may yet be able to change them so that designers can import, because you can generally change the permissions.
Okay. So so the message that I'm getting, I don't think it says that. It says something about that I cannot use.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
the error message that I'm getting doesn't indicate anything that you're telling me.
The error message I saw that you pasted in the chat says account folder access right has an issue, which leads me to believe you don't have rights to do that particular function.
That is import.
Right. This can use on folder or whatever, and then it says account folder access right.
Right.
So what Mark is saying about the designers not having the same level of sort of this import capability that an admin user might have,
Mhm.
Again, may yet be able to be changed. That's this default setting. But to your point, if you need a whole group of designers to be able to import, and that's something that needs to be changed, you may be able to do so on an environment or platform level. I'll be honest with you, I'm not sure where to start with that, but Kobe might.
Well,
so if you have this call with him later,
okay.
I would put that first,
Right.
on the docket of,
And I see, if you look at the chat, by the way, there's another guy who is asking the same question as me with a double question mark. And that's pretty amazing that designers cannot import. Come on, that should be the default, that designers should be able to import. Besides, okay, more than one support person has replied to a ticket and said, here, import this and bring it in and and run it, and here's how you do this or whatever. So more than one person has sent me something to import, but I can't, and they never told me I need to be an admin to be able to import.
Can you look at the permissions on the designer project folder you're working with? You may just be able to flag the can administrate permission.
Okay, I right click on the folder and there's a whole bunch of commands. Where do you want me to go?
it'd be under manage
Manage.
permissions. Sorry,
Manage default. There it is. Manage permissions. Okay.
when you add a group, because you can add the designers like this, If you could still, I think I'm still sharing my
Okay.
screen. Yeah.
I
And there's
have,
this,
I have something that says accounts, account information, no data in list. Groups, group information, no data in list. That's it. I have nothing like sure. Oh, okay. Group information designers. I don't have, I have,
do you have this add button?
yeah. Yeah.
Click the add button and you should be able to add the designers that way under group.
Okay. Okay. New group permission. Let's see, pick.
And try this where it has designers and then make
Okay,
sure.
I'm not, hang on a minute. I still can't pick the designer group. I click pick and I have a completely blank screen.
Wow. I wonder.
It just says search type global or in folder tree, and then it says groups with not even a triangle to its left.
Can we back
I
up
want-
2 steps? Are we working with a designer folder, a project folder, or a normal folder?
Well, the icon for it is a square with a pencil in the middle of it. I believe it's a designer folder.
That's correct.
You're right. Yep.
Okay.
Just wanted to verify. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
I
Okay, so
wonder-
manage permissions. Obviously, I guess since I'm a designer, I can't
Mhm.
manage permissions, right?
That would be my
That's
hunch.
the tell. That's the
Yeah.
tell. Yep.
All right. So, but there's no way of seeing, it seems.
Do you have access to this? Probably not. I think I'm about to answer my own question thinking about it, but you have the system access here?
Nope.
No? Okay.
Not even present on.
Do you have
Screen.
access to a sign-in, like a default admin decision sign-in that would have access to it?
No,
You should have a,
don't know of anything.
okay. So your environment will have some credentials, whether it's like admin@decisions.com,
Okay.
something like that, that can log in for
Okay.
admin.
Okay, so
Get-
some admin has to say that some admin has to set the setting that says designers can import. It seems like.
That's
Right.
where I would start. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
We should be able to get that information to you, whatever those admin credentials are,
Mhm.
and send that to you. Just copy paste, and then you should be able to sign in. Just give yourself admin rights. That way, you don't have to use that sign in again. And then you can not only just import, export whatever you need to, or import mostly, but you can set those permissions as you please as well, like you're seeing here,
Okay.
and determine who's in what group and so on.
All right. That sounds good. But yeah. All right. So maybe we'll be able to set up on our end the permissions for designers to be able to import.
Right.
Okay. All right, you know what? Let me yield the floor. I've been talking too much. So if there's anybody else out there who's.
Andy, I have a few other points for you. I was going to address anyway with
Okay.
the Excel. Just for because I know a few more people have joined since we started. Just
Yeah.
wanted to go through the pre-submitted questions first anyway.
Yeah.
And you were first on my list, so I'm gonna pull it up again. I think the next question you had was based off of create Excel, and you can't see at all. Let me see what the question was specifically. Why doesn't create Excel file actually create a file when I specify a full local path name?
Right.
And I was wondering, because I'm going to open up just a flow here. I just made like a mini piece
Okay.
for this create Excel file. But is this, I just wanted to confirm, is this the exact step name that you're
Yes.
using? Okay. So it does create an Excel, this file data.
Where?
So it's part of the output of the step. For me, what I did to be able to access it, you can make it like a downloadable piece on a form, like a download file that somebody can click and it'll download. But when you output, as an output of this flow, this file is the is the output. So it is outputting this Excel or this file.
Where?
Here, from the step.
No. Where does the file end up on my hard disk?
Well, right now, nowhere. You have to specify.
I did specify.
What step are you using to specify?
Create new Excel file.
Okay.
After that, is there any step you're using after that?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
A couple, I mean, something about adding a worksheet and then what is it? Set row data. You know, a couple of stupid little things that I do. But
Fair enough.
when I debug it, it runs through. But what I want to know is, where's the file? How do I get the file onto my hard disk? I specify a complete folder name, C:\users / my user ID / my documents / a folder name / my file.
What step are you using to specify that?
Create new Excel file.
Where are you putting the folder path? From what you see on my screen.
See, this is
Here, this is the step here.
Yeah, I'm opening it now. For some reason, our server is incredibly slow. It takes like 30 seconds just to click on the folder and open it up. Anyway, but I specify the complete path name in, I guess, the file name slot. Yeah.
Down here where it says output.
No, up there where it says file name test.
Okay.
I put the complete path name.
Okay. The file name, that's not meant for a path. It's just what the file is going to be called. To answer your question on where the file goes, right now, like as you're seeing this flow, nowhere. It's just file that's created, and we have to specify as part of the flow what happens to it. So
So let's say I just want to create the new file. What is the step that I have to put into this flow to save that file onto a C drive folder that I specify? How do I save the file?
You want it to automatically save so nobody clicks a button to download, correct? So, because the reason I asked that question.
No. It's simpler than that. If you're in Excel, right? You open up Excel. You got a brand new worksheet, book 1. You type in your name. You type in save. You point to a folder, write the name, you click save, and it saves. There's nothing about downloading or uploading or anything. How do I save the file onto my disk? Simplest possible question. The file is created and you're telling me it's nowhere, right?
Not
You've
anywhere
got this
yet.
thing. Okay. How do you make it be somewhere?
You can actually probably get away with using a create file step.
But he would run into the same issue. It would create the file, but it wouldn't send it anywhere. Like that's what there's this file management catalog, which is the closest thing. Yeah. So let's create file step under file management. Still does the same. It doesn't specify where.
So the data, so the data would then be the file data from the create new Excel file. And then the file name would be the complete path name.
No, the file, this is the same. I'm looking at the step now and seeing it's the same as it's the same of what we're running into before, where the file name is just going to It's just going to name this file. It's not going to move it anywhere. This file management catalog tree is where I would go to start, because I know that there's ways to
Okay, wait. a
interact
minute.
with.
Can you go back, click on the create new Excel file step for me? Because I want to see the property. Okay, the output mapping. What's the output?
File data.
File data. Okay, so now click on the create file one that you just put up on the flow. And it says that the data, the data is a list of byte.
That's what I mean by, I don't think this is what we need. I know what you're
See,
trying to do.
This is a general observation I have with this. It's incredibly complex and unintuitive, even to do the most simple, basic thing. Create a file, save a file. Look at what we're having to go through to do this. It should be just such a simple thing.
You thought
Right.
about doing a feature request through Kobe or through support
I
for
don't
like a
know
simple
what
step like this?
I don't know what it would take. How do I create an Excel file and save it to disk? That's all I want.
I'm sure there's a step for it. What that is, I'll be honest with you, I'm not sure. I would start here on this file management. I would need time to look through it, to be
You might want
honest.
to look at the load file.
This one here.
Yeah, this load file as well. Yep.
It does the same with, it's just the file name.
This
Okay,
one,
but
this
okay,
one
now,
allows you to load files from the application server to a network path
okay.
if you need.
And I did find that there's this step, not only create new Excel file, but there's a specific step for loading an Excel file. As a matter of fact, I've struggled my way through creating a flow that will open an Excel file. But the thing is that I had to specify when I was creating the flow what the file name is. Okay, so what did it have me do? It did something, yeah, here. Wish I could share my screen. All right, so my first step that I made was the step that goes for each Excel or CSV row. That's the name of the step. And I had to supply as an input the name of some Excel file, which it uploaded.
Mhm.
Right. So what I want to know, yeah, I had to upload the file into the properties pane. So what I'm wondering is, how do I ask a user to point to an Excel file and then open that file, read that file, do something with it, et cetera, et cetera?
So there's the best way, or what I would do, is have that be accessible via a form. A really simple form like this. I'm just going to create something where there's this file download piece.
Upload.
Yeah, okay. This
Either one.
Yeah, this I figured out. I can pick a file name. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I've actually got a form like that. So I can have the user pick a file.
And pick where it goes and when it downloads.
Right. It tells it right. It returns the Okay, but the next step is, now that I have the name of a file as the string, how do I open that file? I guess I'd have to do the import Excel or CSV step.
You mean just to open the file regularly on a computer after
Yep.
it's been
Just
created?
open it up and then read it row by row and do something with each row, you know.
Well, after you download it, it becomes, that's how you can view it. That's what gets created.
I'm not downloading. It's on my disk. It's on my local disk. I have an Excel file. I want to point to it and then have the system open it, read the data in it, do some stuff with it, or whatever. So again, another very simple
So
thing.
that
How do I
upload.
simply ask the user for a file? Well, I can ask the user for a file, and I can get back as a string the complete path name for the file that that the user chose. But then now I have that as a string. How do I open that file and do something?
You want to process each row of the Excel file?
Right.
What are you looking to process? Are you processing?
It doesn't matter. That's not
Well,
my
that's
question.
gonna
Is how
determine
do
the
I
next step.
I don't know. How do I just open the file so I can see the data in the flow and do something?
That's what he's asking.
Yeah.
Is
What are we doing with the file? Are we running
Are you
are we
trying to
running
just
any data points through a rule? Are you trying to orchestrate that data somehow? Are you trying to split up each row and column?
No, I'm saying it's irrelevant. I'm just trying to open the file so that the data are available to the flow.
As soon as you upload that file, it's available for the flow.
right? But what you want to do with, like, how you want to view it, it matters what step comes next, because you could just view it where you could interact with that data. You could view it where it's just on display. You could batch process it, like where there's a flow that runs for every row of data. There's a few things that you can, well, there's several things that you can do with it. And all of them are a different step.
I'm losing something here. I have no idea what you're saying. I just want to open an existing Excel file. All I can do is pick the name of a file and have that complete path name to the file as a string. Now I want to open the file. Later, I want to be able to design whatever it is I want to do with it. But I just want to open the file so that the data are available to me. I'm not understanding what you're saying at all.
So the data is going to be available by default. So if you upload it,
I don't know what you mean by that.
So
I have a string, C:\users /Andy Smith /my documents /my folder /my file.xlsx. That's a string.
Mhm.
How do I open that file?
You just want to view it in another document viewer? To view the file? When you say open, that's where my head goes, to view it.
same. Open, I'm just confused on, like,
File open. Just as if you were in Microsoft Excel. You do file open. You navigate through your folders. You pick a file, you hit the open button, and then it's there on the screen, and you can do with it what you want. How do you do that?
This is not going to open up Excel natively.
right.
I know that. I'm just giving you an example. Microsoft Excel allows you to navigate to a file that you want opened and open the file in
So does
Excel.
So does
So-
the form that Ashley just built.
Right.
Can you debug this form?
We'll see if it'll pull up any info for me.
And when she says select file, she's allowed to browse out to her local drive, her C:\\/ whatever the fully qualified drive name is, and she's able to select a file. If you want to further define that it should only be an Excel file, you can create a rule to do that inside of the form.
Yeah, no, I've seen this thing about allowing extensions. Okay, now,
And then what do you want to do with the file after we've uploaded it and we've
I can't-
browsed out to our local drive?
You say open, what is, like, do you want to view it? Do you want, what should happen after this point, after somebody's uploaded? Because if they just click it and
anything
open
could
it,
happen. Anything could happen. I just want to be able to open it.
It's open.
Why
it's
is this-
open. This is it.
It's open.
Where are the data then?
It's
It's,
coming out of this, it'll come out of this
yeah.
form. See how
Where?
the file data is an output of this form? That's your open data. So whatever you want to do with it after this, you can do.
That's why I asked that question, Andy. What are we doing with the file now that it's open?
I don't know. You can, I mean, I have this flow where, for example, I open up a particular file and it just reads down the first column and finds the maximum of the strings that are there. And then spits out the maximum. Now that I'm able to do. Don't have to
Okay.
go into doing that. I've already got that. My problem with that flow is that as I was constructing it, I had to go into the properties pane there and I had to point to a file in the properties pane. So this flow of mine only works on one file, the one that I specified in the properties pane. So I want to be able to do this with some other file or any file that the user chooses. And I'm totally unable to do that. And again, totally, I'm unable to create a new Excel file and put it to disk. I'm still stuck on that too.
Putting it to the disk, the best way is just do that file. From what you just need to do, having this download file pop up right after the file's created is the best way for somebody to get it onto their disk. Because they could just click it, download it, they could specify where it goes, just like you would download anything else.
Wait, what are the?
So
I don't know. All I know is that when you have create a new Excel file, the output from it is a file data, right?
Mhm.
right.
And so you have to do some kind of download step to write the file data to disk.
Or do you want that to be automated, or do you want the user to decide where the file is stored?
I guess, yeah, I'd like the user to be able to pick it.
You would need another form to download the file that Ashley already has on this form that she factored out.
Okay, and the input to the form would be the file data?
Yep, like this.
Yes.
Okay. So, oh, all right. Now hang on. So I do create new Excel file. And let's say I do a whole bunch of things to it. I add some worksheets, I add some columns and rows, I add some data, I format it, I do borders, whatever the heck I want to do to it. But then the next thing is that I have this form which has a download button on it. And
download file component. Yeah.
right. Okay. And then, so that would pop up a dialog box. Let me see.
Mhm.
Wait a minute. Hang on. Why is it that? So the download file is going to enable me to navigate to where I want and specify a file name, and then it will write the data to disk. I'm so confused. I'm really so confused.
This will put it into it'll put it into a downloads folder, but that would be based on your browser, based on where you want it to go.
Okay, so click download file for me, and then
See how it shows up top here in like a downloads folder?
okay.
So I can change that, just not in decisions. That's on whatever browser you're using.
Okay. Isn't there a way to change it in decisions with somehow with the download?
Not that I'm aware of now. I mean, there might be,
All right.
but this would be the best bet.
All right. So again, think about just plain old Microsoft Excel, or for that matter, Notepad, right? You open up Notepad, you type some stuff in there. You do file save. It immediately presents you with a dialog box. Most likely it starts out in My Documents, but it allows you to navigate, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so you're able to pick an existing folder, but a non-existing file name.
Mm-hmm.
Hit the OK button, and it saves. That's all I want.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but here it downloads automatically to the downloads folder, or
Correct.
whatever the browser setting is, right?
Right.
For all downloads. And then it's up to you, the user outside of decisions, to go to your downloads folder and move it where you want.
Right.
Okay, well, that's something.
Yeah, but the things change. So this is the one, it used to be 105.
Now, okay,
Right.
so all right, we're making some progress here. Do me a favor though. Can you put a step on here? The step is called for each Excel or CSV row.
Mhm.
Yeah, and it used to be.
No, it's 2 words actually.
Oh, well, sometimes it doesn't pop them up if you search it as two.
Yeah,
But this
I know.
one might. This one though.
That's that one. Okay. So this is a step that I use, and what I had to do in this step was to go to, hang on, but I think it's in inputs where it says file input. Okay. And I had to change where it says unknown. I had to change it to constant, whereupon the red box changes to a big square area that says, drag and drop a file here or choose download.
Mm-hmm.
Or whatever. Okay. Whatever.
Like this.
Anyway.
Like pick something to pick.
Right.
Pick what you want. Pick what Excel you want
Right.
to go through.
Right. So, but the thing is, like I said, the flow that I have, I chose a file and I put it here and it uploaded the file. But, you know, obviously I want this flow to be able to work on any file that I choose. So would I choose a file upload step to,
I would pick whatever the output is of this form, because if you pick a file, if you've uploaded an Excel, that becomes the output of this form.
okay,
And then you can change this to pick that file from the flow. And
Okay.
now this will iterate through whatever I've uploaded. Instead of one constant file every single time.
yeah, exactly. All right, file.
Yeah, so why is this?
All right. See, this is what's confusing to me. I mean, you know, everything is all about uploading and downloading, and I'm just not used to that. Just want to create a file, save it to disk, change the file, save it to disk, read the file, save it, you know, save it to disk or whatever. And this whole thing about uploading and downloading is confusing things.
Mhm.
I just want to be able to operate the way regular people operate in Word or Excel or Notepad or whatever. I mean, Excel primarily. We happen to be a financial company, so obviously a lot of people work with Excel, right? But I just want to be able to point to an Excel file and say, "Here, process this," and then maybe go through some stuff, right? And you know, gather up some data and then save the data to a file. And both picking the Excel file and saving the Excel file should be to the disk side.
Because it's not just
Right.
There are a couple of other processes we need to analyze.
All right, I'll try to play around. It's just maybe I'm just too old for this, but there's so much here. It's just not intuitive and not easy. But this thing with the form and the download and upload, that was pretty helpful. So I'll just play with it some more, see what I can figure out.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I feel guilty. I'm sorry. There's a lot of other people on this call totally taken up 99%.
Yeah, we can in the spirit of that, we could just move on to the next pre-submitted question.
Yeah. Go ahead.
All right. From Chris. Chris, are you still here? Yes. So Chris, you asked, is there a quick way to collect the first 1,000 items in a list without using a for each loop and collect said 1,000 one at a time?
So instead of
sorry, Andy, did you mind muting?
Yeah.
Thank you. Sorry, is there a quick way to collect the first 1,000 items in the list without using a for each loop to collect said 1,000 at a time? The way that I solve this is I'll use the for each loop like this. And then I'll have a rule that comes right after that will reference the item index, this output here. So I'll pick some arbitrary type. What do we always use in our documentation? Something like account or something. Cool. So account. And there's this item index output that comes out of it. That's always going to be a number. Can we unmute Chris? Powers that be? Oh, yeah. I saw what you just put. I'm sorry about that. Adrian. Allowed to talk. There we go. Chris, you should be allowed to unmute now. Go ahead.
Excellent. So this is, what I'm saying. I don't want to do it this way because every every trip around that for each counts against my recursion count. So I'm looking for a way to get the top, the first 1,000 on the list without going through a for each.
Without making the rule that counts the index.
Because if you're counting the index, you are circling around the for each, which goes against your recursion count.
That's right.
So I'm trying to not pay the recursion count expense.
I see. So like a get items and list, and then can we, if there's a step that would just gather all the items first without having to recur through the list, shrink it down at that point. That way it's passing in the 1,000 items rather than.
Well, it goes like this. I mean, the use case in particular is that I call the web service. The web service will sometimes return to me 30,000, a list of 30,000.
Yeah.
Now, and I'm actually after a count of 10,000 rather than 1,000, but I thought, immaterial. But you can kind of see where the threshold I'm bumping into here. So I want to be able to, sometimes I get this giant list. It would be very handy if there's a step that would say, top 1,000 of this list of flow structure, right?
Yeah.
So then with one step, I've got the top 1,000. I sort of don't care about the rest. I'm going to forget about them. I got my 1,000. I'm going to move on with that. And yeah, I can do the loop count that you're talking about, but then, that also becomes an iteration expense. And I'm trying to avoid that iteration cost.
Okay. Performance wise, when you say cost, yeah.
Well, it's performance wise, but also like the properties of every flow, you have a recursion limit, right? And my prior experience with these recursion limits is that they, seem to apply different levels, different ways. And iterating around a loop is one of the ways that you get yourself, maxing out the recursion limit.
I see what you're saying. This table that you're getting these items from, because you brought up like terminology for like SQL, like select X from whatever rows.
Well, but it's not a table. It's actually a web service that is handing back to me a list as a giant JSON string, which the decisions engine is automatically picking apart for me into a list of potentially 20,000 flow structure, a list of 20,000 custom flow structures, right?
Yeah. You answered my question. My next question, which was going to be where are you getting it from? But if it's coming from like a service, I see what you're running into, because it could return back 20,000, it could return back 50,000. Because we're just pulling it from that place. But would there be a way where once we get those items in, where we could just shrink it down to the top 1,000 items or return it back? Let me think about this. My first thought would be, is there a specific way to organize the call that you're making where it would return back the first 1,000? Right.
And so you're asking me to change the web service, which I've chatted them about this, but they're beyond, they're sort of beyond my
reach.
Yes.
I understand. Yeah. That would be where I would go first is do you have a way I can customize this call, or I could change it, but where I could at least get back this amount of items. But if I'm getting in my bucket 30,000 grains of rice, but I want to, have to be after I received all those items, that I would just take a scoop that only gets me the 1,000, and then that 1,000 is what I put through the limit, not the rest of it. Let me see.
My follow-up question, or sort of, looking at economy of recursion cost.
Chris, I think we lost you.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
So So your off the cuff answer is use for each or out of luck.
That was my like initial knee jerk is how I would solve that. First thing that comes to my mind is probably the first thing you thought of too, which, but excluding this recursion sort of obstacle that's in the way, right? What I'm kind of noodling on right now, if you will, is once we get the items in, what step could break down, like only give me in this list, just return back the top 1,000, which it may be a step 4. Let me see if there's anything in our list. This is the next place I would look, is any of our list steps of like paring down the list.
Sure, I looked through like, so they're in like data list category.
Yeah,
And
you're going
me
down
and
this
my
way.
colleague both went through data and list and could not find anything in here that would offer to take, top 1,000, here you go.
Yeah.
That's
Alex
sort of where
actually in chat put my next idea, which would be this collection filter. The only thing with this collection filter is it does its sort of own internal for each, but what you could do is you could run a rule collection filter rather, where you can edit this rule to say the entity that's coming in, and if there's a count number of it, like if the whatever the entity type is, you'll have a lot more options than I do right now, because you'd be able to pare this down a lot more. But like we'll say that entity would be that complex type that's coming in.
Sure.
And that should have its own index. And if you could have the rule say,
does it have an index?
If it's a list, I would assume it would. Generally with data, if it's a list, it'll have its own sort of referential index.
So my experience with like a filter is that whether it's a rule or flow oriented, either way, that you can reference the item content, right? But I would not have guessed that the item index was available. Are you telling me the item index is available inside that rule? If you edit the rule?
It could be. Generally they are, because you'll have a whole list of items that could come in. The only I'll kind of skip ahead to my rub with this option would be it's not really that different from this for each.
It's not. Yeah, I mean, I understand that.
Yeah.
But my observation is that with the for each, right, the iterations count against your recursion. The internal iteration within, say, a filter seems to only count as one step.
Right.
So so even while the processing thereof is perhaps parallel in every way that matters, except the recursion cost.
Right.
As the flow engine assesses that cost. That's the difference that I'm finding. I
see. And Chris, I want to dig into this more. Unfortunately, I have a call coming up right now, but what I wanted to ask you was, would changing this recursion limit change how you would approach this? Like if you could change that recursion limit, would that make using this this for each more feasible?
I'm resisting that because I would really like to be able to get the top 1,000 quickly or top 10,000 quickly, because that gets me that opens the door for other efficiencies that I could probably process what I need to process much faster.
I understand. And I see it makes sense to me where your line of thinking is. Like, it's much better for me to just get the 1,000 items and pass those through rather than loop through and then and have the recursion cost that way. I know the for each does stop at the 1,000, so my only thought is, if it reached the 1,000 and didn't process anything else other than that top 1,000, would that not be the same as processing all the 1,000 items anyway?
two pushbacks about that. One is that there's going to be an example where I regret that. Unfortunately, we're going to have to try the example anyway.
Mhm.
And so I've got my eye on things like run flow for lists that let me do much larger things, even fast,
Yes,
also quickly, but without the recursion count cost, is my
right.
experience. So that's where I'm sort of looking ahead to, okay, I'm probably gonna have to blow through the 10,000, the nominal 10,000 count anyway. So it's sort of like, I'd like to be able to do it the same way both times, but the only reason I can't do the 10,000, the efficient way is because I have to get the top 10,000 first.
Right. And that's where your question about the chunking and the for each or run flows for
Yeah.
lists is relevant, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I understand. If I'm partial to that run flows for lists because it does that threading much, it does batch processing like that much better. Like it runs it, it's what it's designed for is that batch processing.
Okay.
And that's where I would lean to. I'll be honest that the chunking one was new to me until I got your question, and looking into it, I see that it separates, like you dictate how many sort of threads are separated into each chunk. And then it processes them that way, sort of chunk at a time, using that terminology. The run flows for list I would use if mainly because it's I think easier to visualize and set up because you're going through an entire flow and it's each item is going through this flow. And then similar to that for each, you can, without repeating too much of what we said before, figure out the first 10,000 and so on. And I understand the hesitation about not wanting to change the recursion limit too, but this one, man, I would have to think about a bit longer. I feel like in my gut, there is a step where you could take items and just return back those items. Because if it's a simple step, then we've solved sort of the main issue here, which is, can we simply get the 1,000 items and then we'll do whatever we need with them, as it were. Can I, do you know who your CSM is? In the decision side, who your customer success manager is?
Hang on, let me see if
Because while you're looking, what I'd like to do is
Tony's comes to
positive.
mind. Tony comes to mind real quick.
Okay, well, we like Tony.
Very good.
Yeah. So what we'll do, I can reach out to him because he has a lot of background info on the tool and he has a lot of context on your use case in general anyway. So we won't have to go through you won't have to explain everything. And I'm going to ask him, or if I can find out in the background what that simple step is, just reach out to him so he can then either let you know or set up some kind of follow-up for you.
Yeah, if he finds that step, email would be wonderful.
Okay. All right, thanks, Chris. Sorry I couldn't get us anywhere today with it. I appreciate you explaining the context for me, though. It gives me a little bit to work on for when I just do some background research. Tony might know the step right away, so I'll throw it back with him, and then we'll email you as soon as we get an answer, whatever the step forward might be.
Very good.
All right. With that, I'm afraid we'll have to close out Lunch and Learn for today. I appreciate everybody attending and for bearing with while we troubleshot today. I feel like it was productive. We got somewhere. But if you'd like, we can attend up till Thursday. We don't do them on Fridays, but same time, same bat channel. We'll be here. Tomorrow will be Tim Stall. So if you have any questions, please submit them and we'll get to them post haste. Until then, everybody take care. Have a good one.